Hi, this is Michael Uslan. You're listening to Batman on Film.
The Adventures of Batman.
Welcoming you to the new adventures of Batman.
Welcome to episode 12 of Batmanimation, a Batman on Film podcast, exploring the animated adventures of the Caped Crusader. I am the host, senior BOF contributor Ryan Lauer, and with me is the head honcho, the gumbo guru of Batman on Film, Bill Jet Ramey. Bill, how are you?
I'm excellent.
Excellent. All right. Coming in strong.
For the moment. Yes.
For the moment. Okay.
For the moment. We'll see how the rest of the day goes.
I was gonna say, well, I hope this conversation goes well and that doesn't change.
No.
But okay. This will be
Hey,
good.
I can always find a way to get up for these podcasts.
Mhm.
Try to give the best performance possible. I give it my all,
Yeah.
It's like
You said
Yes.
get up for it. I mean, you've been up for about what, like 7 hours by the time that you hit this. So
Oh, absolutely. It's it
this
is
is your second wind.
8:37 a.m. Central as we record this on the 17th of November 2022. Yeah, I've been up since 1 o'clock, Go to bed at 4, get up at 1.
What a life. What a life down there. Yes, happy that we got back into this. It's a little timely.
Yes.
I'd say, for the topic of discussion today. We're talking the Adventures of Batman, which, of course, if you're a listener of Batman on Film, a reader of Batman on Film, a fan of Batman, you heard that the series is going to be released in early 2023 on the Blu-ray, which this will be like the fourth year now in a row that they're re-releasing these animated Batman series on Blu-ray. Start, with Batman the Animated Series, and then then the Batman Beyond. Yeah, Batman Beyond was 2020. That's right. And then I think the Batman was last year, or was it this year? Man, I'm a mess. I'm just rambling. But they're re-releasing all this probably just for Batmanimation.
Yeah,
and then
absolutely.
Brave and the Bold, they haven't done a complete, the complete series set, but that has been out on Blu-ray, as has Beware the Batman. But
yes, I have all of those on Blu-ray. Now I will have this one coming soon.
Yes.
And then I assume they will get to the New Adventures of Batman from 1977 at some point.
Yeah, because the fans are demanding that one.
Yeah, right? Sure. Like the best interpretation of Batmite I've ever seen in any media.
Of course.
I say that with tongue firmly planted in cheek.
It is firmly planted in cheek. I can see this. So I wanted to do, first off, so the episode that we're going to be talking about is How Many Herring in a Wheelbarrow. But I want to give, first off, a quick little history lesson of this show and how it originally is under the Filmation. It's a Filmation animated series, and originally launched as the Batman Superman Hour.
It was
in 1968. Now it did morph into the fact of that was comprised of shorter stories of both Batman and Superman for the entire hour, but the Batman shorts were then repackaged and then aired as its own show. And which is funny, I don't know when it must have been named the Batman Adventures within the Batman Superman Hour, because in looking at everything online, and correct me everything that I'm wrong here, but because then it was Batman with Robin the Boy Wonder, in which the opening credits even have that listed as Batman with Robin the Boy Wonder.
I don't know if it was ever officially the Adventures of Batman. I think that was like a retroactive title. When they started referring to it and packaging it up. Because I think at some point it was like part of a Batman Tarzan hour or some.
So that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Completely makes sense. Tarzan is a staple in Gotham City. But yeah, it's historic. It's also the first animated Batman series.
There you
It is, it's kind of my Batman the Animated Series, my BTAS. I was almost 3 when it came out, and I remember as a kid watching. I don't remember watching it as at 3 years old. I know I did. I was a Batman fan by that time. So I know I watched it, and this is when Saturday morning cartoons were a big deal. You know, you get up at 6:30, so you'd be ready at 7 o'clock because they'd start. And I were watching it, but probably my early memories is when whatever it was repackaged at. There's Batman Superman hour, and then it was just Batman, and then there was this, I think, this Batman Tarzan, whatever. But I remember it clearly, and I was also watching at that time in reruns. Basically, was the 60s live action TV series. So this was like my formative Batman media right here. That, and when I always say looking at comics, because 3 years old, 4 years old, wasn't reading just yet, but I remember looking at
pictures.
them. Yeah. So it's kind of to me, this is an important series. Like, you just take me and my Batman fandom. This was clearly it helped shape, and build my Batman fandom. And I also remember they had these little shorts. There's somewhere I have them on Batman on Film. They had these little video shorts from this series that would show up on Sesame Street. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I didn't know that.
And it was like about, crossing the street. And I know there's one of them with the Joker about crossing the street the right way. And there's another one. I'm not completely sure what the
Do you think that was the
was.
nod in the Return of the Caped Crusaders in 2016? And Adam
Probably.
West gave the quick crossing the street to Robin. It was a quick 5 seconds maybe, but you saying that, it just instantly makes me think of that movie.
Yeah.
So
So
maybe that was a nod.
it's I probably. I mean, it's all connected. Everything.
Everything's connected.
And yeah. So, and I remember because I watched Sesame Street, and I would get excited when they'd have these come on. And was that, and they also had Superman versions of it too. From the same, the Batman Superman hour. So yeah, this was a big deal to me as a kid.
Do you remember watching this first or seeing the 66 series?
Probably
same time.
Just mix,
Same bat time.
Yeah. Same bat time. And it's probably they overlapped. They overlapped for sure. And
interesting. All right.
I think it's it was supposed to be a sequel or kind of an extension of that 60s TV series, even though it wasn't Adam West, it wasn't Burt Ward, it was Owen Sewell and Casey Kasem doing Batman and Robin respectively. So Owen Sewell's kind of like my Kevin Conroy, because he went on with Super Friends voicing Batman. And that was the only, besides Adam West, that was the only Batman voice.
Those were the voices of Batman. Yeah. So it's also interesting in the packaging of everything, because in looking up episode distribution of when it packaged is this. So now you go back and you look at the Adventures of Batman. Each quote unquote episode consists of one story split into 2 6.5-minute parts. And then the rest is just one 6.5-minute part. So How Many Herring in a Wheelbarrow is one of the 2-parters. But when you look up episodes airing together, I bought this digitally just a couple years ago. iTunes had the whole series on sale for $5. And so I picked it up that way. And the pairings, it's how many in a herring? This is the first episode, the first story of the first episode. And you look it up, and this is actually like the third one, part of the third episode that aired. And what it was packaged with isn't what it's packaged with digitally. So, I mean, I kind of feel like it'll be interesting when the Blu-ray comes out to see their listing of episodes and pairing of stuff together and what's similar or different. And so I watched this digitally because I couldn't find it. Like, it's one that's not on HBO Max. How did you watch this one?
I have the DVD.
You watched the DVD
version.
Okay, so
yes.
Where was the location of this episode then? Was this the first one?
Do you remember? Didn't. I believe so. I didn't.
Yeah. Okay.
I just saw it and clicked and did the click and watched,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's funny with these where they package these. A lot of times, it's not necessarily how they aired. Sometimes, I
mean, it's a thing. Anybody that talks about Batman the Animated Series, there's always that back and forth of the production date and the air date, and they're totally different. In which, I just always go by what was on the original DVDs because that's just how I knew it for so many years. So yeah, I'll be getting the Blu-ray. Let's be serious. It's coming. And we'll, we can reconvene then. But some notes on this episode is that it has an air date of September 28th, 1968. We've already touched on it. Batman's voiced by Olin Sewell, who did a lot of Batman voicing for the Batman Scooby-Doo mashups as well as Super Friends. Robin is Casey Kasem, who did a lot of Robin voicing, as well as Shaggy. Larry Storch. You were giving me a brief history lesson. What are some bullet points with Larry Storch? Who voiced the Joker? Sorry.
Yes, he was. I knew him as a kid from F Troop reruns, and you mentioned I watched it. You had watched F Troop.
I watched it as a kid. It was the family channel in the afternoons on the weekends.
And the series aired. It was before my time. It was the 50s, early 60s. But of course, if you grew up with me, it's my age, my vintage. A lot of those shows were reruns. I mean, that was a big deal. Bewitched. All those 60s and 50s shows. Andy Griffith, Mayberry, RFD. I can just start naming all these shows that.
Gomer Pyle.
Yeah, Gomer Pyle.
Mr. Freeze right there.
Surprise, surprise, surprise. Yes.
Heavens.
So, yeah. And he was like in a lot of stuff for a long time. The dude lived to be almost 100. We just talked about. And
I just found that out. He passed away this past summer. In January would have been 100. So that's a good run.
So he was someone that you may not know his name, but you certainly knew him because he was in a lot of stuff, movies, TV, and did a ton of animated voiceover work back then.
Perfect to continue on as the narrator and also as Commissioner Gordon, and also in the series, he ended up voicing Penguin, Riddler, Scarecrow, Mad Hatter, the Tweedledee, Tweedledum, Mr. Freeze, Ted Knight. And if that name does sound familiar, or if it doesn't, it's Ted Baxter from Mary Tyler Moore Show. So this was like right before he was cast as the incomparable Ted Baxter.
Yes. Batman and Robin. Just had that voice in the intro.
I could just see somebody needs to mash up a clip of him reading his scripts as Ted Baxter, but just have audio of the Batman and Robin narration going overhead. I didn't look any further into the works, the resume, but it was written by, it said Bill Keenan, who IMDb also credits William Keenan. I think that's the same person, but he wrote this and then directed by Hal Sutherland, and I'm not necessarily familiar with either of their works. And then the end credits had a ton of people that worked in the animation department on this stuff. So
one last thing about Ted Knight, we have to mention he is Judge Smalls in Caddyshack, which is a classic movie.
Yeah. Well, if nobody knows Caddyshack, you know the GIF. You've seen the GIF. So
yes. Don't sell yourself short, Judge. You're a tremendous slouch.
So yeah, the plot for this one, I mean, Joker's being Joker. It's a little clever, I think, for
Yeah.
late 60s and early animation here. That the Joker basically he wants to take over this laser, and he wants to take over a laser that can quote make the Chicago fire look like a backyard cookout.
Yeah.
And he's leaving like some red herrings for Batman to cover up his trail, in which literally some is fish.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I mean, that's kind of it. I feel like this was 13 minutes, and I kind of feel like you never get a break until they do the halfway tease, which is very reminiscent of the 60s, the end of the 60s.
Yeah, there was
episodes.
a death trap. They're in a death trap.
Death trap.
Yeah. It's all connected.
It's all connected.
But
so
yeah, I was going to say it's the plot overall. It's very what Batman was at that period of time.
Yeah.
It was very what the Joker was. I would even say, heck, even the Joker was in comics was a little more subdued. This one was he was trying to like burn up Gotham City with a laser. So, but he was a little bit more than a harmless prankster. But this was before 1973 and the Joker's 5-Way Revenge, when they completely went to the original incarnation of the Joker in the comic.
I do think the tone of this, for being 1968, which we know that's when the Batman live action series ended, I think the tone is it's toned down quite a bit from the show. So while you still have Joker and he's almost like ending every single line with like a laugh, basically. It still seems like he's on the same wavelength throughout, and then just adds like a laugh at the end. It's not way up and down, and then Batman and Robin making jokes and funny stuff. Like, I feel like your comparison of this was your BTAS, I can kind of see that, because watching it does feel a little bit more serious. Now, not really dark, I wouldn't say that it's dark, but tonal shift from
it's
other
you don't
TV
have
series.
you don't have the camp of the TV series. Now you could say it's campy. I mean, you watch it today and it's there's some silly stuff. You have
of its
Bruce
time.
Wayne and Batman and Robin and Dick Grayson. They wink at the camera, things like that. The animation is very simple.
There's one shot specifically towards the end that it's a full body shot of Batman, and it's missing the yellow oval, and then right out of nowhere at the end it pops back in, and then he turns away and runs. It's like, oh well, that's interesting.
It's that the Robin's R changes sides of his tunic, and then the colors will be inverted, on the R. I know that they've done some modern day cartoons that kind of parody that stuff, where colors change from instantly, but you can just tell it's very simple. They use the same scenes over and over again, and just
Batman and Robin both in the Batmobile. I noticed that it just seems like the same thing over and over. And I think sometimes, in which I don't know, maybe we're on a budget and crunch time, that there's like, who cares, we got to keep going. That the opening shot, even of like, it comes up to the booth where the guard's at, and it gives him like an over the shoulder shot, and it's just a blue screen that you're looking at, with like headlights, quote unquote, are coming. And they do stuff like that a little bit. Like, there's one also in the lab somewhere, and it's just Robin and then just nothing but yellow behind him. That the Batman shot that I just mentioned, where his oval's missing, I think it's just a red background behind him. So this, the simple point, I think is spot on. Which we can laugh at a little bit, but it's also, they aren't trying to be campy. It probably was like shoestring budgets and stuff like that. So maybe that adds a little charm to it.
Oh, of course. I mean, and I also like, you got the Joker mobile, you got a Joker copter, you had Joker goons and these jester outfits,
And which color you'd think it'd be the Jester Mobile because the colors of the vehicle.
Yeah.
I think of both that and the Batmobile. They add a little bit of flair, but also it's kind of like a red and yellow Joker Mobile. And it's like, wait, hold on a second. Why it can't even be purple?
Yeah.
And then the Batmobile is black, and then it's just like, oh shit, yeah, we got to add a bat sign on there. So they just paint this blue one right on the hood, and then that's it, or something. But
Yeah.
it's also having fun with the comic book world too. So
Yeah.
it's also like it
Hey.
adds a little charm.
This was deadly serious stuff for me as
I
a
bet
young kid. I loved it, you know.
you thought that they weren't gonna make it when it cut to
Oh,
commercial.
I was literally was, you know, 3, 4, 5-year-old me having a small panic attack, worried about Batman and Robin on that magnetic slide
Yeah,
heading down to a fire pit. You know,
how's that?
and then
how are they gonna get out of this?
yeah, they just miraculously had this little switch just pops up on both of your utility belts that weren't there before.
Yeah,
that allows them to break the magnetic or send out some freaking
he's always
shock.
prepared.
Yeah,
He's always got the right tool in there.
Did you notice that the Joker said when he's talking about, you know, burning up with the laser, you know, using this laser to burn up Gotham? He says it's going to be a hot town in the old town tonight.
I made a note of that.
Yeah.
By any means, do you think, because it's all connected, that when they came up with that for the '89 movie, they were like, "Hey, the Adventures
Of course.
of Batman."
Of course they did, because you know why? You know why? Because it's all connected.
It's all connected. Okay. Of course. But it's so funny how now, like, you can watch that and you'll think, oh my gosh, it's like from Batman '89. Like, give Batman '89 the sole credit, when it's like, no, actually,
I even think that
20 years earlier.
Batman blowing up Axis Chemicals in Batman '89 is a nod to this episode where the factory blows up. The factory at the end blows up that the Joker is using to where he has his laser.
Was the cage for the skylight actually fell on Nicholson's Joker?
Yes.
And then they were like, I just don't think that works as well.
Yes. Yeah. It's all connected.
But I mean, it's all connected. But I do like, it seems stuff that we've seen now, but at the time, I think it's, it's probably a little creative, but that shot of Joker basically ends up being captured, caged by this light, and then it does do a transition right into that's the front page of the newspaper of Joker caught. It's like, well, that's pretty fun. Yeah, that's a good little that's creative, I think, for its time period. We see that kind of stuff all the time now, so we're used to it, but for the time, I feel like that's a little advanced, so good for them.
This was pre Batman and Gordon having that partner relationship in the Batman mythos. Gordon was always, from the very beginning, Detective 27 in 1939. He was always part of Batman. So it's funny, he addresses Batman on like a CB radio type contraption that's in the Batcave, or in the Batmobile at the beginning. And then at the end, he's at Wayne Manor talking to Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson about, thanks to Batman and Robin, we got the Joker. And, and then they're winking. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Thank goodness. Wink, wink.
Yep.
Break that fourth wall. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think two other quick points. 3. So I did mention the guard at the very beginning. It made me laugh. I watched this twice because it's short. It made me laugh. The Joker pulls up in the Joker mobile. He's in the driver's seat, and the guard's standing there and just looks at him. Joker hands him his card. The guard sees it's the Joker and then looks and goes, oh, the Joker. It's like,
yeah.
Not until he gets the Joker card. It's like, no way. I found that to be kind of funny. It was funny to me sometimes that they're really cool transitions of like Batman walking toward the camera, and it's his bat symbol was the transition.
Did you notice that every time he does this kind of crouch down and lift back up toward the
it's like a leap.
it's like the same move every time, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Robin got in on the action at the end, but then also the transition it had in itself, I felt very much a new version of the 60s transition, in which I'm unfamiliar. I watched one episode of the New Adventures of Batman. So I don't know if it happened in that a lot, but Super Friends obviously has the transition a lot. That I just picked up on that, and like, man, it's if anything, there's too much of that bat symbol transition between
Yeah.
scenes. Like, it is just like constant.
It is.
And then
Yeah. Yeah.
and then I think also the fact that because the episode does move, the music is blasting, and it's fast-paced music throughout the whole damn thing. And I'm like, oh, I feel like they could have turned it down a little bit and maybe given us a little bit of a break, because it does feel like maybe they created a minute and a half of music and then just put it on repeat.
Looped it. Yeah. It's very 60s, 70s Saturday morning cartoon background music. Very much.
Yeah.
And it's not, I'm sure that there was some sort of, I know it's supposed to be a spin-off sequel of the 60s TV series, but I'm sure there were like contractual rights to, like, you couldn't have the Batman theme from the 60s TV series. I'm not sure. I don't know why Adam West and Burt Ward didn't voice. Maybe they were out of this production's budget at the time to afford them. But they do end up, you know, coming back. They did voice Batman and Robin in animation later, 1977, and then, of course, with the return of the Cape Crusaders movie. So, but like I said, that this was my Batman, the voices of Batman and Robin for me as a kid. Casey Kasem and Owen Sewell. So
I think Owen Sewell, they both did a good job. I hear Shaggy with Casey Kasem. That's just all that I hear. But I think Owen Sewell has a good distinct, animated Batman voice, which obviously I knew because I've seen Super Friends. This is the first I've ever watched this show, and because it's just, I think it's marked down to like 17 episodes in the whole digital thing, and they're gonna end up being like 20 minutes each. It's like, yeah, I'll probably, even though I have it digitally, I'll wait till I get that Blu-ray and I'll just blast through them there, because I mean, I found it to be, for this being the first time I'm watching it, I think, I understand it's of its time, but also it's not a massive detractor either.
Yeah.
It's not like it was hard to stomach or watch or anything like that. It was like, oh, this would have been fun to wake up and have my cereal with, which I still do at my age. But if as a kid, I wake up Saturday mornings for this.
I'll say this quickly about the voice performance of Casey Kasem and Owen Sewell. Casey Kasem seems, I get it. I get Shaggy completely when I hear it. But he's riffing off of Burt Ward a little bit as far as the dialogue, the lines, and what the things he says. But with Owen Sewell, he's not really doing an Adam West impersonation. His different cadence completely. Now he throws out, old chum, and there's some little phrases and words that you probably would have heard in the 60s TV series, but it's not, I don't think he's riffing off of Adam West as much as Casey Kasem was trying to do a Burt Ward.
I get that.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have any final words on this episode?
No. I mentioned Gordon. This Gordon, he had the reddish brown hair and glasses, but no mustache. And this was back in when Gordon was a gray hair, white hair, in the comics. I think Gordon didn't have the reddish brown or red hair until what, year one?
I was just going to say, like, was it year one?
Yeah.
Frank Miller was inspired by this series.
Exactly. Here we go.
All connected.
Yeah.
Of course. Excellent. Yeah. I mean, I think I just said my piece. I think this was fun. It was harmless. I'll be revisiting when that Blu-ray comes, and maybe if I get a little extra itch, I might watch the rest because I didn't watch the part that was included with this, which is a Penguin episode, and specifically it's like bird out of hand. The Penguin has become the newest costume crusader, but is he for real? Oh my goodness!
Ooh,
what a tease! What a tease!
yes.
And that's only 6 minutes, so maybe I'll finish it off and watch that. So,
and I'm sure we'll get back to this. We'll get back to this series on this podcast at some point. I mean,
if anything else, it'll be when the Blu-ray comes out. Maybe like we'll just
because we know that Mr. Freeze is in this series, and he's probably looking for diamonds.
Diamonds, and I want to see how Ted Knight delivers as Mr. Freeze. And then I saw, also the Scarecrow's in this series, and I love that Scarecrow. So there we go. Bill, thanks for coming back on the Batmanimation from your own website. So go ahead and why don't you go ahead and plug away whatever you want. Yeah.
Well, I will plug that we have a new podcast at Batman on Film. We have spun off chapter by chapter from the Social Hour, where we did the Batman over a course of 19 episodes, which I'm very proud of that. Please check that out. That's some good stuff. And we have started with the first movie we are doing chapter by chapter is Batman 89. So we are one episode in, and we'll have episode 2 that you and I have already done. Actually, will come early next week. Yes, in a few days. So
next week. First episode, that was a good discussion. You, Justin, and the sheriff, Ryan Haas. Yeah, enjoyed listening to that one.
Yeah, that's going to be
ours is probably okay. Ours I think was okay.
Well, when you're talking about Batman, it's always awesome.
It's exactly. There you go. As for me, just go to batmanonfilm.com. I got stuff up there, and actually, I should have a new episode of my podcast, The Batman Book Club. Follow on Twitter at the Batman BC. Bill posts those on the website, and you can listen to those wherever you listen to your podcast. In the newest episode, Bill, my worlds collided. Batman, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I am
a nerd explosion.
That will be on Batman on Film today, as we speak.
Excellent.
Yes.
So track that down after you listen to this, and I think that'll do it for us. So for Bill, I'm Ryan, and we will let announcer Rachel take us out.
Barbecue canceled, Joker.
Thanks for listening to Batmanimation, a BatmanOnFilm.com podcast revisiting the animated TV and film adventures of the Caped Crusader. Follow Batmanimation on Twitter at Batmanimation. Follow BOF on Twitter at The Batman on Film. Follow Jet on Twitter at Batman on Film. For Jet and Team BOF, I'm announcer Rachel. Batman on Film, authoritative, definitive, the original, established in 1998.